City Council meeting of January 9th, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Hoagland, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Carter. Mr. Young.
Present.
Mr. Walters.
Here.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
Here.
Ms. Moulton.
Here.
Mr. McDougall.
Here.
Ms. Hubick.
Here.
Okay, would you all please join me in the pledge? Okay, a couple quick announcements. If you are online, maybe watching on Channel 10 and you're trying to pull up the agenda, we're having some technical difficulties with the council agenda and packet materials. So also for council if you're trying to pull those up. So apologize for that. We're working on resolving that. Also, some good news on things like repair, the trestle, the demolition is complete on the trestle. We're hoping to get to work. We're targeting the week of the 23rd to start actual repairs of the trestle. So pretty excited. We're moving along pretty rapidly. Some other damage you might be aware of. I know council's aware. The Ship Harbor Trail is closed thanks to multiple king tides. And low pressure system has turned part of that wetland into an estuary, I believe is the new technically correct term. Wetland to estuary, although they're both wetlands, but more specifically an estuary. So Mother Nature has changed the topography over there. So avoid that area. It is currently closed. You cannot use the Ship Harbor Boardwalk. Okay, we're on.
Miller?
Mr. Young, yes.
I move we excuse Mr. Carter from the meeting tonight.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Young, a second by Ms. Hubick to excuse Mr. Carter. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you for that. And that's all I have. So we're on to item 3A, which is Mayor's Award of Merit, Joanne Stewart. And Mr. Meismer is going to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and the audience. This evening, Joanne Stewart, Planning, Community and Economic Development Program Coordinator for the City of Anacortes, is receiving the Mayor's Award of Merit for all of her hard work in the community. Joanne is responsible for the lodging tax fund contracts, for various special event permits, the community development block grant implementation, and Joanne also spends a lot of time working with nonprofit organizations to help them find funding resources for various projects. A good example of that is working with some of the leftover CDBG funds to get a cold weather shelter going this year. And then during the COVID processes, putting together funding applications for local businesses and grant processes to help them through the COVID process. And so we're very fortunate to have Joanne working with us here in the city, and I'm very proud to say that she's one of our best employees. So Joanne, would you come forward?
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, good stuff there, and we're on to item 3B, Housing Affordability and Community Services Committee report.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleland.
Thank you. So on January 5th, we had our meeting. We had a great update from Stephen with Community Action. He is in charge of the Recovery Navigator program, which is kind of a new program that's up and running. And its focus is intensive case management for unhoused people. It includes stabilization of mental health and behavioral health, housing, with the goal of trying to lower crime and increase public safety. So they now actually have a referral form online that's available for law enforcement, for the general public, or any concerned citizen. So you can also call a hotline. I don't have the phone number with me, but I think we're going to put a link up on our city website, hopefully. But you know, it's a pretty simple form. If you've got a first name or a last name, or a first or whole name, if you kind of know where they are, any kind of descriptive qualities, just so that these folks who are part of the Navigator program can go out and see if their services would be helpful to an individual. So it's just kind of another resource for the community and for law enforcement. They've got a capacity to help, I can't remember the number of people, but I think 40. And right now there's still available rooms. So don't hesitate to take advantage of that if you see a problem. And they're also been really good about kind of coordinating with other nonprofits and social services. So that's a really cool program that's available throughout the county. The other thing is there's going to be a County Connect. It hasn't totally been planned out, but it'll be March 1st at Anacortes High School. And it's going to be with the county. Will provide information, energy assistance, community action will be there. I believe Anacortes Family Center will be there. We should have more information as we get closer to it, but that's something to put on your calendar, and will be in the afternoon or early evening time. The other one we discussed somewhat was the cold weather shelter. I know that's been a concern of a lot of our citizens. And just for clarification, there's two kind of terms that are being thrown around. There's the cold weather shelter, and then there is also the motel voucher program. So in years past, sometimes we've done a cold weather shelter, which is kind of a large space where everyone can come in. Last year and again this year instead of a kind of a cold weather shelter, it's more of a motel voucher program. So we are working with the Family Center and the Salvation Army are the two nonprofits that are helping kind of facilitate those services. We currently have about 3 rooms reserved, and we are going to get an additional 2 rooms when they become available. Those rooms are kind of, they range in size, so you can either do a couple of individuals, not part of the same family, or there's room for up to 5 if there's a larger family that would need space. So we're kind of working through the Family Center and their motel voucher program, but the funding eventually will come through the Salvation Army. So I know that it's a little confusing. We've asked for maybe a better table that should be available for folks as another resource, and we should get that up and running soon. But it is available, and you know, anyone qualifies for it if needed. Either the law enforcement or concerned citizens or nonprofits are able to place folks, recommend folks for that program. And then finally, we discussed a bit about what our goals are and to work on for affordable housing and community services committee. I don't even know if I said it right. For 2023. So we're going to work on the parking ordinance some more. Some concern about personal property in the right-of-way, if there's some way to deal with that. Continue to kind of dial in the utility bill discount, which we've started that discussion. Permanent funding for extreme cold or extreme hot weather shelter. That's probably a larger project than we'll be able to kind of see come to fruition this year, but it's something that we really need to think about and start working on. The Homeless Housing Action Plan, we would like to figure out what that would look like for Anacortes. And then permanent housing for extreme low income is always kind of on the horizon for us. And then finally, the Affordable Housing Strategic Plan update. So those are the things that HACS is working on. If anyone has anything else to add, please do.
Okay, thanks. And I did receive word that the online packet material should be available and up and running now, if you're following at home. Next up, 3C, Planning Committee report.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Moulton.
Thank you. One thing I just realized I could tack on to Councilmember Cleland McGrath's report is that the referral form for the Recovery Navigator program can also be found on the Community Action website. I think it's pretty prominent there. So that's a place to go in the meantime till we get that up on the city website. But I'm here to report on the Planning Committee, which met just prior to this meeting, and it was Council Members Walters, Cleland McGrath, and myself, and Planning Director Don Miesmer with Joanne Stewart and Planner Libby Grage too. So Joanne gave us a brief presentation on the CDBG action plan that will be coming to City Council on February 6th. And the ordinary process for that is the federal government gives us about $100,000 to $115,000, and we can spend 15% of that on public services. And this year, the request is to give that to the Anacortes Family Center for their services. And there's been a request from the Housing Authority for a capital project, which is re-roofing another one of their buildings, and that would be about $100,000. So that's just sort of the preview, and we'll get more details on that. And it comes to 2 meetings by law. There will also be a 5-year plan update that's coming that we can add suggestions or direction to. There is a home funding opportunity through the county. There's $1.2 million available, and that's for housing, and that's money that is going to serve Skagit, Island, and Whatcom counties. So we're not sure what the possibilities are there for us, but staff is looking into how we could apply and what we could use that for were we to be awarded it. Ms. Grage talked about the Shoreline Master Program, which has been in the works for quite a while now, and there is some question about the marine shoreline and what the buffers would be for, say, trees and vegetation, which she's been working with the Department of Ecology. There's some overlap with the Critical Areas Ordinance, and that site potential tree height works with freshwater streams and rivers, but according to ecology, that doesn't apply to marine shorelines. There is a whole nother construct for determining that, because there's so much variety of what's already been built there and what the conditions are along those marine shorelines. So she's been working on that with ecology. That will be coming forward to us in February, pretty much done. We talked about our housing action plan, which we've all seen, and that will be back next week to council. And Bob Bengford and Scott Bonjukian from Makers, our consultants, will be here in person to answer any questions. So if you have a chance to review that, that would be great before they're here. And that covers our meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Fiber Committee report.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. McDougall.
The Fiber Committee met briefly on December 22nd, primarily actually to review the contract, the finalized RBC contract for that we have on the agenda tonight. So that said, I also wanted to note that we passed the 1,700 customer threshold, 1,700 customers on net. We're actually probably in the ballpark of 1,725 by now. So congrats to the department on that.
All right, thanks.
Really pleased. 1,747
47,
tonight.
yeah. Good number. All right, next up is the 2023 Skagit County Ferry Haul-Out presentation. And Mr. Hash has come up to introduce our guest, who is going to be zooming in, Mr. Jones. But Mr. Hash, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Henry Hash, Public Works. Yes, the ferry haul-out is something that happens on a regular basis. So it is my pleasure to introduce tonight that our Captain Rachel Rowe, the ferry manager, also Mr. Forrest Jones. Thank you, Forrest, for sending me my talking points today. They're 2 of the better employees of our county, great employees. I've had the pleasure to work with them many years. So the Island Ferry haul-out is, they're going to talk about the schedules tonight. They're going to talk about the reasoning of the haul-out. and the parking and road restrictions, and then the schedule of the haul out and some meeting schedule. I'm going to leave that to Mr. Jones, I believe. Thank you, Forrest. Are you?
Yeah, thank you, Henry. Thank you for the great introduction. Appreciate the kind words, and I'd like to return those back to you. So, you guys will notice there's two Forrest Joneses on here. I shared my login with Rachel. We didn't realize that it would pop up Forrest. So Rachel is the other Forrest Jones. So I am going to share my screen here. Can you guys see that?
Not yet, but we'll give it a few seconds. No, we don't have your shared screen yet.
And I'm looking for, it's got every window I have open except for the one I want. Try this again. Yeah, there it is.
All right. Yep, it's coming. We got it.
All right. Yeah, as Henry mentioned, this is here tonight to inform the council that the Guaymas Island Ferry is scheduled for maintenance, which will require that the ferry be hauled out and put in dry dock. The dry dock location will be at Dakota Creek, right there in Anacortes, Washington. So we're happy that is happening. So as you can see, the haul out schedule, it begins on Monday, February 27th at 6:30 a.m. and it will end on Monday, March 20th at 6:30 a.m. So basically, it's been over 2 years since the last haul out for maintenance, and some of the maintenance that we're going to be performing on the haul out is spot painting the hull, maintenance of the bulwarks, the walls around the deck of the ship, fill in voids that are found in the hull in areas of the ship, repair the car deck and recoat that, repaint it, stripping and cleaning the fuel tanks, just minor repairs and routine service on some of the major equipment. So last but not least, and probably one of the most important ones is we get our certification of inspection that's done by the Coast Guard. So we basically need that to operate. That has to happen every 2 years, so we need that to operate the ferry. So we will be running a passenger-only ferry. As you can see, the operator will be Aero Launch. The passenger ferry is basically a foot ferry. It carries 49 passengers. It will operate on the regular ferry schedule. So if you're used to catching the ferry at whatever time, that it will be operating on that time. It will also be available for emergency services or after-hours services. Any emergencies that may arise, hopefully none do. We will also have a Skagit transit bus on the Guaymas Island side to take people to and from their homes just to help with the parking, the limited parking we have over on the Guaymas Island. So, and we are well aware that this impacts Anacortes and the surrounding neighborhoods there. So, we've been going to do a few things out there. We're going to send out a letter. This is just an example of the letter. So basically, this letter will outline the temporary traffic and parking revisions due during the haul out. We'll have a graphic with that, and I'll share that with you on the next slide. We do appreciate and understand the patience of the residents, and we'll do our best to finish the work of the ferry on time, and we understand the imposition it puts on them. So here's a graphic of the letter, of the graphic. So you can see on the side, it's kind of color coded, and it gives you an idea of what is what. Cheat sheet here. So basically, you can see the green is the existing parking that we have in the ferry, and there's the green over there on the Kiwanis Part 2. The parallel parking will be in the yellow, and the red is restricted parking, or no parking, I should say. And the blues.
Mr. Walters?
Forrest, sorry to interrupt here, but as you point out, the green parking in the Kiwanis parking lot there is really not available for the Guimas Ferry under normal circumstances because we've restricted it to 2 hours.
Yeah, and I realized that, and that was something I was going to touch on a little bit later in the presentation. But yeah, we would request that the City Council temporarily lift the restriction on that. We will provide slots, some of the slots for parking only. But yeah, we understand that, and we'll officially request that be lifted, but we understand if you guys don't want to do that. So
yeah, my sense is that anything that we do in that area, if we simply indicate that this is a temporary measure for the haul out, I think that'll help remind people that when the haul out is over, we need to go back to the 2 hour parking limit.
yeah, and that's something we can help you with. We can put up a sign to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, you can see just basically the orange is parallel parking, the blue is the ADA parking, the yellow would be bus parking, and the red is no parking. Signs will be installed in these places. As I mentioned, we will, if you guys allow us to park at Kiwanis, we will reserve some spots on that Kiwanis just for that parking. There will be no parking for the Guimas Ferry. So. Pretty short presentation, so I wanted to share all the contact information here I have there for Rachel Rowe. That's her phone number and email address. I also have given Cuz, he's a member of my staff, works in my traffic department, so he's a good contact. If you guys see anything, please feel free to call. You can call Public Works and ask for me also. So if you see any issues that arise, we try to get out there as quick as possible to remedy those. We plan to meet with Public Works, the Anacortes Public Works, and the police department out there to go over our plan, share the plan with them, and see if they have any questions or want to make any changes. Well, with that, that ends my presentation. So if you guys have any discussions you'd like or any questions, please feel free to ask myself or Rachel.
All right. Any council, any questions?
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters?
This question goes to the way Guimas Ferry patrons park the entirety of the rest of the year as well. But it may be of particular importance during the haul out because there's going to be a lot of cars, more cars than usual, located on these streets. And the question is this: where's the county progress on replacing the security cameras, the surveillance cameras in the ferry parking lots? I'd had some conversation with Captain Rowe about this several months back now, and I'm wondering if we've made any progress.
Thank you, Ryan, for the question. Rachel Rowe, I'm Captain Rachel Rowe with the Ferry Division. I know it says Forrest Jones here under my name, but I used his login to get into the meeting, so apologies for the confusion. Yeah, the question is very relevant, particularly given that there are more vehicles needing to park during the haul out. Two challenges that we face are funding and how to go about getting a system in place that works for everyone. So we have had meetings with your police chief, and we are having ongoing discussions about grants that we can apply for, or other methods of funding, perhaps even giving the cameras to your police department. So there are some challenges. Also, the second challenge that we face is with giving access to our cameras. That has been something that's been difficult for our IT department to figure out, but they are working on giving some limited access to your police officers so that they can come to our ferry terminal and review footage themselves. But all of these things cost money and take time and will not be done prior to the haul out.
Sure. Yeah, sounds like then you are making some progress on it. Do you happen to know, round figure, what cost you're looking at to do this work?
Not yet. I think it all depends on the technology. I've heard people mention that we should get cameras that have facial recognition and license plate readers. And at the same time, we're working on a project to improve our parking lots and possibly look at charging for parking so that we can have that as a security means and method. But of course, that's a discussion we want to have with you all, because that will also affect parking in the residential areas on a regular basis. So I do not have a cost estimate at this time. I think a lot of it depends on working with your officers to find out what technology is useful, feasible, and what we can afford.
Is it, if I can explore this a little further, is it the Anacortes Police Department that is pushing for facial recognition and license plate recognition?
No, and I'm apologies if I said that. It's community members. Particularly those who have had their vehicles broken into and have no answers, because of the quality of the cameras or lack of quality of the existing cameras.
Yeah, I definitely understand the need to upgrade the quality, but maybe we don't need the gold-plated standard camera. If we had good cameras that had useful footage that could be reviewed, seems like that would make a big difference. And if it comes with a price tag that can be afforded, we can be looking out for grants as well. I hope that you carry back to the people that decide your budget the message that we think it's pretty important to resolve that issue.
Yeah, thank you, and we agree. And just so that council is aware, during the dry dock period, we are advising that people not leave their cars for extended periods of time, and if they're only going to be using their vehicle once a week or once during the entire shutdown, that they consider alternate means of transportation, be that carpooling or scheduled transit or some other way, so that they don't put their vehicle at risk of just being parked there for an extra long time and taking up spaces that people who commute on a regular basis could be using.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Captain Rowe, appreciate it. It's always, I'm afraid we know that area well because we talk about it a lot, and mostly during haul outs. So thank you for the information.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. All right. We are on to item 4, which is public comment. Opportunity for any member of the public that wishes to address the City Council on anything that is not on our agenda, which would be, if If you want to address the council on, I think item C. You can wait till then, but anybody want to address the council? Anything else? Oh, yep, come on up. And just your name and where you live. You don't have to give an address. City helps.
Blue Heron Circle, Anacortes. Quick follow-up to what they just had there. An idea where the old cannery building used to be that burned down. That's just a flat piece of land. I don't know what kind of usage rights we have with that, but if that was flattened out, that would seem like if we continue to have haul outs over and over again, that might be a good spot for people to park. And then to go along with the security cameras, more lights would be very helpful. There's a couple dark places on the far end where I often see people just using the stairs at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. So might be something to look into.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Young.
Would you say your name once again? I think I missed it. I see you sitting out here, so I just thought
It's Michael Painter.
Thank you.
Thank you, and that helps our stand-in for Mr. Franciak for the record, so thanks. All right, anybody else? I don't have anybody online, so we'll move on to item number 5, which is our consent agenda, and you can probably see that there are no minutes there because we'll work to get those on our next agenda, but consent agenda, council.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Young.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Young, a second by Mr. McDougall to approve consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're on to other business. Item 6A is a contract award for HVAC maintenance on on-call repair services. Mr. Hash, and since Mr. Holman left, it's all on you.
Hello again, Henry Hash. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a contract for our HVAC system. You approved a similar contract earlier last year for our electrical work. And this really great progress from the way we have been doing things. Generally, when we need something, we need to go out to bid, write specs, and it's pretty time consuming. And not every situation that we have, it really provides the time for us. Sometimes they need to be done immediately. So with this contract, they will be doing all the routine maintenance as well as all the emergency. It's $350,000, not to exceed $350,000 for 4 years.
Okay.
Happy to answer
Any
any
questions for Mr. Hash? Any motions for contract approval?
Mayor Miller?
Ms. Moulton.
I move that City Council authorize the mayor to sign this contract as presented.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Moulton, a second by Mr. Young for approval of the contract award HVAC maintenance and on-call repair services. Mr. Hoagland, would you take the vote, please?
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath?
Yes.
Ms. Moulton?
Yes.
Mr. McDougall?
Yes.
Ms. Hubick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to
Thank you.
item, thank you, Mr. Hash. We're on to item number 6B, contract modification, municipal broadband network 2021, West Side Backbone expansion, Ms. Shu.
Excuse me, I'll just wait for this to pull up. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and members of the audience. Tonight, I'm prepared to discuss contract modification 2, the municipal broadband network. This is our contract with RBC for the 2021 West Side backbone expansion. And first, I thought it might be nice just to have a visual of the area that we are talking about. We have received 1,045 orders from the 2,302 premises that we passed as part of this expansion. So we currently have a 45.4% take rate. Of those orders, 646 are in service right now, and we have another 399 that are awaiting installation. I thought it'd be helpful to just to have a recap of the project. So the work in this project began in June of 2021. It's a unit-based contract. As the work progressed, we did find that there were increases in the quantities in several types of work units that we found as field conditions when when RBC was doing the build. In January of 2022, there was a contract modification authorized, and this is the second and final contract modification. So as you can see here, the original contract was for $5 million. There was a $537,000 contract mod back in January of last year, and this is the final contract mod of $506,597.60. That brings the final contract to just under $6.1 million. I understand that nobody wants to be talking about contract modifications. This ends up being 20% of the entire cost when you look at the total modifications for the contract. But that work is complete and kind of is what it is. In regard to the status on the project, RBC has completed the work and all the invoiceable items, but there is additional asphalt restoration that needs to be complete to meet the city's standards. This is an example of an area in the West End where they have gone out and done that restoration. RBC has submitted its final invoice to us, and the city is going to retain the 5% of the invoice payment, so that ends up being just over $280,000 as required by state law until we issue that final acceptance of the project. So we have not issued the final acceptance of the project. So the contract, as I mentioned, the contractor has issued the final invoice. We are continuing to monitor their asphalt restoration work. I'm very appreciative of the support of the Public Works Department with the inspector that they have provided to help with that review. I would suggest that we withhold acceptance of the project until that restoration is complete, and with that will mean that we retain the $280,000. With this oversight, it is my recommendation that we move forward and that Council approve contract modification 02 with Robinson Brothers Construction in the amount of $506,597.60. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Yeah, I know I've talked to everybody on council about this project more than you wanted to talk to me about it probably, and probably lost or got a few gray hairs over it. A lot of hard work of the staff of coming to a conclusion. Yeah, it's ultimately a hard number, but I tell you the really good news is we learned a lot of good lessons. This was the hardest, probably literally the hardest part of the fiber project because it was all rock and everything underground. So again, learned a lot of lessons about design, and we did, and thanks to the hard negotiation with RBC, come into a amicable conclusion, and we kind of set aside that budget number for this this final overage. So again, the dividends are paying off with the next phase of the project of the lessons learned on this major undertaking. So that's all I have to say about that. Okay, questions for Mr. Young?
Yes. No, this is really much more of a comment. What I really appreciate about this whole project is the due diligence gone into not allowing things to be out of hand, meaning that we're consciously making tough decisions, and we're using the resources that we have as efficiently as possible. You know, even in this presentation, until that final sign-off is done, there's a 5% holdback. And, you know, I just think that, you know, as a city, you know, this was massive, but the benefit that we have by being a small city with this opportunity is huge. And I think that it further positions us as a small city, but yet with big ambition, so to speak. And I just really wanted to thank not only the team, but also the mayor and all for pulling this forward. So I'm very appreciative of the presentation and how you've done it.
Thanks,
Mayor
Mr.
Miller? Mr. McDougall.
Yeah, I didn't have any questions either, but I also wanted to thank both the department and the mayor for pursuing this effort and going through this process, the significant learning of getting the west side done. I also want to point out, like, yes, it is unfortunate, you know, a 20% sort of increase. However, you know, it's all numbers, and right now the department is running at about 45.5% market share take rate. So that's 30% above our sort of what we were budgeting for, what our business model is based on. So on the revenue side, that's an even better story. So thank you and congrats.
Well, thank you. Honestly, I can't say that was the response I was expecting when I'm bringing forth a contract modification, but I really would be remiss if I didn't say what a team effort this has been, and that the Public Works Department, the legal department, the finance department, I mean, everybody has kind of had their head in and helped through this process. So it's nice that we don't work in silos.
Ms. Cleland.
Yeah, I'm just curious about those final details that need to be completed to release that final 5%. Do you have a timeline on when that will be accomplished?
So weather has not been in our favor in terms of having asphalt availability or the ability to kind of get out there and do the work. So the recommendation would be that we close out the contract with this contract modification. That would allow us, if we do that, it would allow us to pay it utilizing the 2022 budget dollars, and that we would hold the retainage. We have a responsibility to keep that for until 30 days. We have to make sure that we return it within 30 days of the contract being considered to be a final acceptance.
Kind of a funny story on inspecting. I had scheduled to go out with the Fiber and Public Works team to inspect the work, but there was 6 inches of snow on on that particular date. So there are some reasonable excuses for them not to be able to make the repairs, but we're going to hold them to making all those appropriate repairs.
And I was just curious for the people that live in those neighborhoods, right? Is it if it's next spring, then I assume once it's warmed up enough to do asphalt again? Is that?
I'm certainly hoping it's before that.
Okay.
So
Sooner.
maybe as soon as next week they would be back.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Walters.
And I would just also like to say I understand that staff have had quite a bit of angst over this contract and the amendments and the proposed original amounts of the amendments. And while certainly it is good that Public Works has done these inspections and been able to determine, you know, with precision what needed to be included in the amendment and what didn't. Where we landed at 20% overage is not, in my mind, a crazy amount of overage, given the number of streets that were involved, the miles of streets that were involved, and the fact that the project wasn't designed to the level of a normal public works project. So I think that where we've landed here still is quite good, and as Mr. McDougall indicated, the rest of the numbers help support that. So the project is still really on track. I'm glad that we're closing this out, and I'm hoping that we're proceeding apace to the next phase. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Young.
Unless there's further comment, I move that City Council authorize the mayor to sign contract modification 02 with Robinson Brothers Construction, Inc. under contract 21-094-FBR 2023-001 in the amount of $506,597.60, increasing the final contract price to $6,099,767.22.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Young, a second by Mr. McDougall to authorize me to sign the contract modification municipal broadband network 2021 West Side Backbone expansion. Mr. Hoagland, would you take a vote, please?
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath?
Yes.
Ms. Moulton?
Yes.
Mr. McDougall?
Yes.
Ms. Hubick?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're on to item 6C, City of Anacortes and Community Action of Skagit County Agreement. And this is discussion with possible action, and Ms. Shu is going to introduce this item and some guests.
Yes. Thanks, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm pleased to present jointly with the Community Action of Skagit County with an agreement that we have put together utilizing the $60,000 that the City Council authorized as part of the 2023 budget to bring a satellite office to Anacortes. So Mr. Bill Henkel, the Executive Director, is going to do a brief introduction, and then we have a presentation from Ms. Sandy York, the Division Director. The hope is after the presentation tonight that this agreement has been brought before the HACS committee, and we have incorporated lots of comments along the way to, I think, make a very strong agreement proposal that we'll be able to take action on that. But I will start with Mr. Henkel. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops. Thank you, Emily. Mr. Mayor, council members, again, Bill Hinkle, Executive Director, Community Action of Skagit County. So great to be with you this evening. And indeed, Sandy York, our very, very, very capable Division Director and Anacortes resident, will provide the bulk of this evening's presentation. But I wanted to be here in person to, if there's questions to answer, and also to thank you all. And express gratitude on behalf of Community Action for sure. Thanks for the funding and support, encouragement. Moving forward, it's been our goal to have an on-site ongoing presence to broaden and deepen our services to Anacortes for some time. And we're about to make it a reality. Thanks to Mayor Miller and Emily Shu and city staff for working the contract so quickly and making it real. And we're also grateful that city staff are offering to be part of the interview panel. I think that's really important. We want this person to be a good fit. So we appreciate that as well. We're also grateful for some of the local partners, Anacortes Family Center and Anacortes Housing Authority, for so warmly welcoming the notion, and the Anacortes Housing Authority for offering to co-locate us. Brian has been great to work with on that account. And thanks also to council members for individually offering so much encouragement and support and guidance. Certainly, most recently, Carolyn has graciously agreed to serve on our board, but I think I could go individually and thank each of you for so many things that you've helped us through. So I'll try not, I'm not going to go there because I'd leave some folks off and some things off for sure. So we're grateful to serve, grateful for the funding, and grateful for the partnership, and I'll hand it over to Sandy and I'll hang out and we'll see if you have questions. Thank you.
Mayor Miller, council members, thanks so much for having us here again. I'm going to turn this into a PowerPoint or full screen. There we go. All right. And I know that many of you here have heard some of the information about community action before, but I'd love to reiterate our vision and mission and a couple basic facts just so anybody who's in the audience or on screen can learn a little bit about community action. Our vision is that we will work together in Skagit County to end poverty. And our mission is to stabilize lives and to equip families for success so that we can build a stronger, more equitable community. We do that by listening and taking the lead of our neighbors, not with loved experience, although maybe that too, but lived experience. That's very important for us to be listening to the people that we serve. And we have a number of programs that help us do that. As you know, we have a pretty big reach in Skagit County, all the way from East County Resource Center up in Concrete, and they do work even beyond that up into Marble Mountain beyond. And of course in Mount Vernon and Burlington, Cedar-Woolley naturally, and we're very excited to be partnering with the City of Anacortes and the Anacortes Housing Authority to be able to extend our reach and increase our impact here in Anacortes as well and other parts of West County. I want to go over, I've shared some of this data before. I did want to remind everybody that of the people that we already serve in Anacortes, as you can see from this screen, 64% of them are at 0 to 30% of the area median income. And there's even 12% who are unknown, and they're likely to be in that category as well. So the people that we already serve are in the lowest section of area median income, and we want to make sure that we're offering supports to people who need it to be able to stay housed, to be able to stay stable, and hope and eventually thrive. In the past year, you can see on the right side of the screen the number of services that we provided in Anacortes. There was a question that came up in the HACS committee at the last, or I think 2 meetings ago, about whether the number of people who came onto the housing interest pool was separate from the number that the Anacortes Family Center served. This is actually the same. So we make sure that those coming in through the Anacortes Family Center are also entered into our database to make sure that they're entered as being entered into the housing interest pool. The places where we do expect to see an increase in services by having a presence here in Anacortes are specifically on care coordination and all of the associated outcomes with care coordination, especially for unhoused or unstably housed individuals. And that does include our street outreach program and recovery navigator program as well. And then of course, food and in-home care support for seniors and disabled individuals, transportation assistance, and energy and utility assistance. And one of the things I'd like to mention too that's important is we do expect to see an increase in the number of unduplicated individuals and households served, but what's even more important is, especially with that care coordination piece, it's not just about the unduplicated individuals or households served, but also about how they're served. That care coordination in particular is really about making sure that people have access to wraparound services, that they're not just getting, let's say, a one-time voucher, but we're checking to make sure they're screened for other needs that they have, and they're getting that ongoing case management. That's the goal. So we're not only going to see that increase in people, but also hopefully that increase in the number of services that people are receiving, and then therefore the number of positive outcomes that they can see in their life. Again, we're very proud to partner with the city and with the Housing Authority to make this move. It's going to contribute to a full-time staff member in Anacortes and some associated technology costs that will go with it. The purpose of having a services center or a resource center here in Anacortes is to provide more comprehensive wraparound services for customers who already live here, to provide better access to information and individuals and families who are eligible but have not yet benefited from our resources and services. We have often heard that we're the best kept secret in Skagit County, and we want to make sure that people know about the opportunities that we have to offer. And we really look forward to working more closely with other local service providers to ensure that we can fill in gaps in service and that we're not over-duplicating where it's not necessary. The services, and this is all included in the contract if you've had a chance to see it, there'll be quite a bit of screening for eligibility and connecting clients with programs and benefits that they're eligible for. So that includes SNAP assistance, the coordinated entry system, working families tax credit, care coordination, food and energy assistance, and a lot of other ways that we might be able to help people stretch their income. Care coordination, again, I explained what that is. That's going to be a major service, and the full-time person that will be based here, covered by the City of Anacortes funds, will be a care specialist lead, and they'll be the primary person responsible for that. And there will likely eventually be a second care specialist here as well to do that care coordination. Information and referral, of course, facilitating appointments, either online or in person, with other programs and providers in a private space. That's very similar to the way we operate up at our East County Resource Center as well, working with a number of partners to come in and provide a space for meeting. And then also providing a landing space for other program staff at Community Action or partner services, just as in our East County Resource Center model. I have to say a lot of staff have been very excited about the opportunity to have a landing space here to be able to provide better access to services, such as senior and disabled services, employment, education, obviously energy and utility assistance as well. And then last, liaising with other local service providers. Little information on location and staffing. The Anacortes Housing Authority has generously offered to support the cost of space in Anacortes, and the temporary location will be in the Olson Building, owned by the Anacortes Housing Authority. We did have a chance to visit there. Myself and 4 staff members went over on Friday afternoon and had a chance to look at the space and begin to plan out what we need in terms of infrastructure and technology, so that was exciting. The primary staff person, as I mentioned, will be a care specialist lead who will be overseen by our resource center manager, who is based in Mount Vernon, but plans to be here at least once a week. Someone from the City of Anacortes will be invited to sit on the interviews for the position. We have already posted that position and are already getting applications for that position, so we'll be in touch when that happens. We're excited about it. We may also have our Anacortes WIC staff person based in that office as well. And we'll have hotel space for other program staff to have scheduled days in the Anacortes office for ease of access and outreach to clients, as I mentioned. How to help? Help us get the word out. We'll do what we can to get the word out via articles and flyers, social media. We'll do a brunch and learn event in April, March or April, focused on our the Anacortes Resource Center here and some of our other ways that we reach out past Burlington and Mount Vernon. Things that you can do is tell your friends and family about our presence to help spread the word. If you know of anybody who would like to donate to Community Action with a designation of support for services in Anacortes, we can do that budget-wise. Or invite someone from Community Action to come talk at a service club or event. I do know that, for example, Stephen Simmons does plan to attend the Community Connect event on March 1st, and he wanted to make sure that when we have somebody hired that will be here in Anacortes, that they would be able to attend that as well. And again, we're happy to respond to invitations to speak at other events or committees as well. Happy to answer questions as I'm able. If I can't, I might turn it over to Bill.
I'm sure we'll have some questions.
Yeah.
Council, Mr. Young.
I thought I wanted to echo how happy I am with Community Action. Quite honestly, even though when I first moved here to Anacortes, within the week of my moving here, Community Action reached out to me, and I think Lynn, former in the position, but Lynn reached out to me, and from that moment, they made sure that I felt welcomed. They brought friendships to the table, and they introduced me to this wonderful organization that was doing tremendous amounts of work within the community. But for me, what warmed my heart even more than the work that you were doing was the friendship and the extra effort to make sure that I felt welcomed in Skagit County, and how they introduced me and made sure I was in among wonderful people. So, and I also served on the board. So I thought I just would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that, because that's something that when you move to a new community, to have an organization reach out to you just to say, we're glad you're here. And, and I think that that sentiment is really what Community Action has been all about. And I really appreciate the move here to Anacortes, part of it. And I think that there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of fields to plow. And I'm all in. So anyway, Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think this one is open for public comment. Anyone online? We have one online, one here. Okay. Council, any other questions?
Mayor Miller?
Ms. Moulton?
Thank you. As a new board member of Community Action, I will abstain from the vote, but I just want to say how honored I am to be a new contributor to the organization, and already I've learned a lot that is going to benefit my work on the HACS committee and on city council, and I'm really, really excited about it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters?
I also want to say thank you to Community Action for being interested in opening an office here in Anacortes. I think it provides some attempt at parity with some of the services that you offer elsewhere in the county now. When you look at slide 3 there, you can see that now you will have a presence throughout the county. You had a pop-up in December behind Mom's Closet, which is also another organization that is doing good work with slim resources here in Anacortes. And in just the brief amount of time that I was standing there during this pop-up opportunity for people to come and talk to Community Action, there were quite a few people who came in and got services that they weren't otherwise getting here in Anacortes. So I have a good sense that you will be providing some services that you weren't able to before and that people weren't able to access before. There are quite a number of people here in town who have been here a long time. They're not people who've moved here recently, because people who've moved here recently that you're interacting with are people of means that have moved here and bought houses, but people who have been here a long time who have houses, who are land rich and cash poor, who have houses that are run down, that need wheelchair ramps or that need energy assistance. These are people that will really benefit from the services that Community Action will be able to provide here. So I'm really looking forward to that. I also really want to thank you for attending all of our HACS committee meetings. Especially because we are able to offer them remotely, it's easy to participate, and we appreciate Community Action's participation because it has substantially helped close some of the information gaps that we have in our awareness of what services are out there and our awareness of what services we should be advocating for and what policies we should be advocating for. And we've invited lots of service providers to attend, and quite a few locally here do, and it's been very helpful for us as a committee. So again, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleland, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, to tag on to what Mr. Walters said, I really appreciate the amount of involvement you guys have had with the HACS committee meetings on a weekly basis over the last couple of years. I think we're kind of hitting the ground running because we've had that ongoing conversation about you knowing kind of what our needs are and you being able to share what resources you have available so that we can be as effective and provide as much support to our community as possible. So thank you, and I know that I look forward to having your presence here and seeing what we can do together. With that being said, I would like to make a motion that we approve agreement 23-041-IDS-001 between the City of Anacortes and Community Action of Skagit County to establish a satellite office in Anacortes with a care specialist.
Second.
Okay, I got a tie on the second, but I got a motion by Ms. Cleveland McGrath and a second by Mr. Walters to approve the agreement, the contract as presented. Mr. Hoagland, would you take the vote, please?
Ms. Cleveland McGrath?
Yes.
Ms. Moulton?
Abstain.
Mr. McDougall?
Yes.
Ms. Hubick?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Walters?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you very much. And
Thank you very much.
with that, no further business before the council. I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.